how are we going to find a solution to this problem? Think about it, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Straight No Chaser, the only show to quench your talk radio thirst.
Anyone else?
My name is David, and in 8 years, I'll be an alcoholic.
Hi, David.
I'll start drinking in middle school, just at parties. But my parents won't start talking to me about it till high school. And by then, I'll already be in some trouble.
Kids who drink before age 15 are 5 times more likely to have alcohol problems when they're adults.
The thing is, my parents won't even see it coming.
So start talking.
Who's next?
Before they start drinking.
I just remembered it's election day. Are you going to vote?
I don't know. I don't think I'll have time today.
Millions of eligible voters in America never make it to the polls or even register to vote. When you don't vote, you're letting other people make decisions for you and pick the things your taxes will pay for. Voting is more than a civic duty. It gives you a voice about the priorities and the future of your community and our nation. Voting gives you a seat at the table.
Started at a party, everyone was there. She had a couple pills on a little dare. But now she's missing class, and she's dropping her pom-poms. Nobody knows where she is, not even her mom. Everybody thought she was the all-American girl. So there goes the books, it's all about the score. There goes the doggy, life is such a bore. There goes the family, she's got a new friend. There goes the looks, this is the end. I guess she really was the all-American girl.
Pick up heroin and you'll throw away everything you love. Share your stories on Instagram with #heroin.
You don't like watered-down issues? Let us serve you the hard stuff. So come on, let's get back to Pastor C, MBZ, and the Chief.
All right, and we are back from the break. So let's get right back into our discussion. We were talking about the Nike campaign to feature Colin Kaepernick and the outrage and celebration it has created. As always, we want to hear from you guys. So either chat us up on Spreaker or call in at 702-425-7789. So, guys, there are strong feelings on both sides of this issue, but when will America be able to move past the emotions and have some constructive dialogue about police-community interaction? Or at least when will we be able to have a sound person, whether if it's a celebrity? I guess Nike thought that they were going to be doing this kind of role as this peacemaker or trying to put out a message, but it actually went left. So what is it going to take to calm this down? And I know, Thinbad, you were an elected official and basically groomed by a civil rights icon. So how do you think this whole issue can be mediated?
In terms of, what do you mean, when do we get to the end? Or
well, I guess specifically, so to break it down, first, how can we finally get on track with a good discussion about police interaction? When can we stop with all the nonsense and get down to the nitty-gritty of facing this problem we have with police brutality? Let's start there.
Well, I think it goes, you have to be willing, people have to be willing to have the tough conversations, because it kind of goes back even before, you deal with police, policing in and of itself. What is that based on?
Right.
And what, the funny part is that people tend to hold, police and ministers and everybody else, they hold these folks to a higher standard. But the point is, these folks were all raised, born, went to school in this country. So there's some residue on everybody and people have to work through their own, and we all have them. We all have, our own prejudices, whether we want to say it or not, or admit it or not. And you have to be willing to work through it. You have to be willing to own it. You have to be willing to work through it and talk through these things initially, because you're never going to be able. The only time you seem to come together is after something tragic happens. And there's got to be a willingness to be able to come together and talk about this and talk about what is really happening. For a start, we can't even get that start. Now, granted, it's got to move beyond that too, because people are like, oh, we come together. We've been talking for years. The millennials and the younger folks are like, we've been marching for years. We got to do something different. And I don't think it's any one answer. I think all of those things have to be employed.
Right.
I think those who can march should march. Those who can, but all the while you have to, conversations have to be happening. Those in the legislature have to be working on policy and legislation that will, criminalize some of the things that are happening. I mean, how long has this stuff been going on? And, we only recently have heard that there was an officer who was, really just recently, I think, charged with, murder, where a white police officer was actually charged with the murder of a young black male.
Yes, a couple weeks ago.
But these things are rooted, right? These things are rooted in people's beliefs and perceptions about people of color, about poor people, and all of these things it's all about a matter of people being, quote unquote, protected from this image that's been created. And it's been continuing throughout the years. And each time, each generation, something else happens, but it's always the same thing over and over again. I think numbers in terms of legislation and legislators, what legislators respect is numbers. And when I say numbers, I mean numbers in terms of people, phone call, people. The last thing you want to see as a legislator is a bunch of people at your doorstep. You're waiting to talk to you, or fielding a bunch of letters or phone calls about a stance that you took that was against, a large percentage of the people that you were sent to whatever state house you are to the people you were sent to represent.
Right.
But people have to be willing to fight. A lot of times, I think, folks, there's so much push put on voting that people feel like once they vote, they've done their duty.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that's kind of where it starts. Once you vote someone in office, the next piece is to hold those folks accountable.
Right.
And that's not just a one-off kind of thing. You can't just get together and, vote like we, that was done, in 2008 and 2012. Hey, we voted for, we get excited about voting the first black president in, and then we just take our hands off and don't vote in the midterm.
At all. Right.
At all. And we don't vote for the judges in the little local jurisdictions. Well, you know what? Those judges start there, and then they work their way up, and they get to the state courts, they get to the federal courts, and before you know it, when there's an opening in the Supreme Court, look who's there. These people show up, and you're like, well, where'd they come from? Well, they came from that year you didn't vote 20 years ago. When you decided you didn't want to go to jury duty, so you wouldn't vote. I mean, all kinds of ridiculous stories that people do, or reasons that people have for not getting involved. And now you've got people who are involved, people who are, as they say, woke now, but you got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. You can't just vote and be done. You've got to vote, and then you've got to work at holding those people accountable. And if they didn't work out, if they didn't stick to what it was they said they were going to do, if they're not working for the benefit of the folks, of the people that they were sent there to represent, then you got to work at voting them out. And I think those things happen because mayors, run to run the city, and then the mayor in a lot of cases, the one who hires the police chief. The police chief, so you gotta find out. Maybe you want to ask the question of the mayor, like, "What's your ideas on policing?
Right.
What's your thought?" What the different kind of questions that need to be asked. I don't think it's not an easy fix, because it's so entrenched in every aspect of what it is that we have to deal with. There's this prejudice that's there. It's kind of baked in,
right?
And it's just it's going to take continual work. It will take continual work.
So, earlier you were talking about this whole idea of voting in the first place, and I just want to bring up the fact that a lot of millennials didn't even vote. A lot of millennials don't even vote because it's almost like, they have this attitude, especially with the Trump elections, they have this attitude like, oh, I don't like Trump or Hillary, so I'm just not going to vote. And now we have Trump, and now everybody's like boo-hooing. And, I always tell people, no matter what impact you think you're going to have, you got to vote. But now it seems like, actually, I wanted to ask first, because I've been hearing this, but I've never actually asked to confirm. Is it true now that if you don't vote in the primaries, you cannot vote for the bigger elections?
I don't know if that's. I hadn't heard that. Now,
Okay.
I know some now that may be in. I don't know what if something's like that in different states, but if you're talking about nationwide, I've not heard.
Okay.
That should be, unless that's something that's state specific.
And actually, let's pause really quick because we actually have a caller. So let's see what this caller is up to. Caller, you are on the line.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Colette. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine. You guys are touching every topic tonight. So I wanted to address voting.
Okay. Awesome.
Ayanna Pressley. Have you followed the election of Ayanna Pressley in Boston yesterday?
Yes. Yes.
Well, my daughter, at the age of 22, was recruited out of Emerson College to run the campaign of Ayanna Pressley.
Wow.
For Boston City Council.
Wow.
And so you had a young African-American woman who was 22 and another young woman who was in her 30s, and together they put together a dynamic campaign. A lot of work, a lot of intense work. They had millennials who were willing to put in the time and the hours. And then, election day came, and I flew up from Georgia, where I was living, and I worked the polls all day and the day before, handing out flyers, giving out information, making sure that I got the stats right. Fast forward 9 years later, Ayanna Pressley is now the Congresswoman.
Which is amazing.
You can do it.
Yes.
You can put in the time. It takes time and commitment, and it takes the respect of the history of those who have died in order for us not to just vote, but to participate in the entire process.
Yes. And I'm really glad that you called in with that story because like I was touching on before, millennials especially cannot have this perception that voting doesn't do anything, because even if the main election of president doesn't go your way,